Welcome everyone to the Chris Perish podcast. My name is Chris Perish. Yes, we got a little bit of a new intro coming in. Just doing everything I can to update and to make this show even better for every single one of you. How's everybody doing today? And we got a lot of great stuff coming in, and we got a lot of great topics to talk about. But before we do any of that, we'll say hi to our good old friend Chris Best at CBRS Entertainment. Good afternoon. We gotta get through that little housekeeping as we see the Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program right there to my left, my right, depending on how you're seeing it. Make sure you're going and checking out all of Turnbuckle Studios, which will show you a video of all the great, the plethora of shows to watch on that platform. But if you want to go check out the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, and if you want to get involved into podcasting, into streaming, and you want to get a good start, you want to partner up with Turnbuckle Studios, you can be a part of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. And that link below to get started is affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. And the beauty of that is not only can you get a hold of Turnbuckle Studios, you can get a hold of people like myself, like Chris Best, like OMD, Bubba Duke, all of those people that you see on a regular basis within the Turnbuckle Studios. And then you can also get to learn about StreamYard, which we use. You can find more about that in that code in the description below, which, by the way, if you're following on the YouTube, make sure you're giving us a great a big thumbs up. Just absolutely throw that elbow pad off, do the little dance, and make sure you hit that people's elbow on that thumbs up button right now. And then if you can, right beside it, it's subscribe. So make sure you're checking that out, hitting that button, just like you can on all the other platforms. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that helps the channel. Because here at the Chris Perish Podcast, we appreciate every little bit of help, because the bigger we get, the bigger and the better shows we can give you. Now, on to the good stuff, right? The stuff that we all want to talk about, pro wrestling. And boy, do we have a show for you, because this was a week. We saw an absolutely fire episode of SmackDown just 2 days ago, where we saw the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY absolutely do battle in what was definitely a classic match. An absolute classic match, and that determined the number one contender to those SmackDown Tag Team Championships. But that wasn't it. What we saw was absolutely amazing. As we went to commercial break, came back, and we saw Nick Aldis in the ring. We saw the Bloodline in the ring. We saw Motor City Machine Guns in the ring. And we saw the Bloodline open the challenge, and we had ourselves an impromptu tag team title match where we saw the Bloodline get their up and up, because Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso got involved, took out Jacob Fatu, took out Solo Sikoa, and then just when the referee was down and out, Jey Uso came out, and he decided to get even with the people that cost him his Intercontinental Championship on Monday, as we saw brand new tag team champions in the forms of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns, just mere days after debuting with the company. They call themselves champion. And a lot of people want to talk about whether or not they're getting shot to the moon really quick. And I can say, you know what? Maybe they are. You can say that because it is fairly quick. But the one thing you can't deny is the fact that they have been in professional wrestling for a very long time. They've cut their teeth. They've paid their dues. They've done everything they needed to do to get there. They're not just making their first appearance on WWE. Well, I mean, I guess they are. Well, Alex Shelley isn't. Chris Sabin was. But the people, the fans know them. And no longer do we watch WWE in a place where we get our intelligence insulted just because we watch other programming. No, we watch WWE when they acknowledge other promotions. In fact, WWE and TNA have a partnership, a working relationship as we speak, as we saw some representation on just their show yesterday in Bound for Glory. So when you see Nick Aldis, a former TNA world champion, sign a former tag team of TNA, former tag team champions of TNA in the Motor City Machine Guns, of course you're going to hear about their history. Of course you're going to know about them. Of course the fans are going to be aware of where they were before, where they were New Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, where they were Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. So they have gone for the ride. They feel like they were in the passenger seat with the Motor City Machine Guns this entire time. So do you want to call that hot shotting right away? Or do you want to say this is just something that was in due time? Like, I think that it was just a matter of time before we saw the Motor City Machine Guns win these tag titles. In fact, I think this was the right move for multiple reasons. Because during that story that I provided, or that recap I provided, we saw so much more development within the original bloodline versus the new bloodline. We've seen now Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso, after that match, reconnect with the hug in the ring as Roman Reigns watched on, almost like they're forming the old band back together. So it looks like we are going into bloodline versus bloodline, and we don't need a championship around that. Plus, with the bloodline costing Jey Uso the Intercontinental Championship on Monday, where Braun Breaker became a two-time Intercontinental Champion, we got reason for Jey Uso to come to SmackDown and to lay the yeet down on the bloodline. Yeah, that's right. I just coined the phrase yeet down. So if you hear that at all in the future, you know that you heard it first on the Chris Perish podcast. But it only made sense, right? And the whole story with Roman and Jimmy was, we need help. We need to bring in Jey. And now Jey has been brought in. There's been a reason for Jey to want to be there, because in the past, last week, he didn't want anything to do with Roman Reigns or Jimmy Uso. He didn't want anything to do with that past. But now he has emotional interest into beating down the people that keep getting involved in his business. So how does that translate to the WWE tag team picture? Simple. We needed to take, not we, I don't work for WWE, but they needed to take off the tag titles from Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga, because you have other business to do there. So what team can re-energize this tag team division? What team can give a new hot shot to this tag team division? Well, the team you say is being hot shot, the Motor City Machine Guns, because you strike when the iron is hot, and right now the Motor City Machine Guns are nothing but pure fire when it comes to breathing new life into the tag team division. And boy, do we have a tag team division in WWE, even on SmackDown alone. Because these are the list of the tag teams on SmackDown, just on SmackDown. We got Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, your tag team champions in the Motor City Machine Guns. We have Los Garza, who could be a very good team for the Motor City Machine Guns to feud with. We have the Street Profits, who have been around for a while, but are just dying to get those tag titles back. It seems like it's been a while, and it has been, since they were tag team champions. And as I said before, Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga. We got A-Town Down Under, another team that's very viable to compete for those tag titles. We have DIY, the team that Motor City Machine Guns defeated to become #1 contenders to those tag team titles. We have Pretty Deadly, another team that fans are just wanting to be more involved in the tag team championship situation. Technically, we have Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. They are SmackDown talents that have just been on NXT for a bit. And then you also have the Thrown Together tag team, and who knows if they're going to stay together, who knows if they're going to do more together, but you have Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. And that's just on SmackDown. So that is 9 male tag teams that you have on SmackDown. So of course you needed to isolate the tag team championships with the team that can defend them. Because when you have tag titles that beautiful, like SmackDown does, there is an appetite for tag team wrestling. This is the new era of WWE. And the new era cares about tag team wrestling. In fact, they're not the only ones with a stacked tag team division on the male side. On Raw, you have Authors of Pain. You have Akira Tozawa and Otis. You have the Creed brothers. You have Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde of LWO. You even have Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston for however long they are going to remain on, together as the New Day. You have the returning War Raiders, and we'll get to the War Raiders soon. Any iteration of the Wyatt Six you still have. And then whenever Tyler Bate is healthy, you have Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, the New Cat Republic, just right there, sitting right there. And then, of course, you have JD McDonough and Finn Balor, your current World Tag Team Champions on Raw. So, again, that is 9 teams just on Raw. So this is 18 teams on the male side between Raw and SmackDown alone. And we haven't even scratched the surface to what's coming up in NXT. And if you want to know the list, I have it right now. Right now, you got Nathan Frazier and Axiom, right? Those are your tag team champions in NXT. You can go Tyreek Egui and Tyson DuPont, a together tag team now. We've been seeing something brewing between Shawn Spears and Brooke Jensen now for a bit. That could be a tag team. We have out of Mud, Enima and Prince. We have any iteration of the No Quarter Catch crew. We have Noam Dar and Ora Mensa of Metaphor. They easily could tag team and just go after the tag team championships. Then you got who I do believe will be the next tag team champions in Hank and Tank, and Hank Walker and Tank Ledger. You also have any iteration of Gallus right there at your disposal. Malik Blade and Idris Enofe. You got to have Stax and Crucifino from the D'Angelo family. Any iteration of Chase U. And then in the past, we've seen Cedric Alexander and John Von Evans. So just by doing a quick math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That is 12 potential tag teams. So now we're talking 40 potential tag teams just in WWE alone. So when you look at the amount of tag teams you have with WWE, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, there is no shortage of tag team action. So yes, there is a reason to why Motor City Machine Guns were given that quote-unquote hot start and winning the tag team championships on SmackDown, and that is because the time is now to act on the absolute fire that is the tag team division on the men's side in WWE. Because you have an opportunity now in just watch SmackDown moving forward and look and tell me that if teams like DIY and the Street Profits, who may have a beef with how their triple threat match ended, That could be a feud that you'd watch, and that doesn't have anything to do with the tag titles. Then you can have Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga potentially face off with the Usos. Because the Usos are that anomaly tag team, as we have Jimmy Uso on SmackDown, Jey Uso on Raw, but now it seems like they're back together. So, and just think, 40 tag teams, and we didn't even mention the Usos. And Usos could possibly be one of the greatest tag teams of our generation, if not of all time. They are the longest reigning tag champions of all time in WWE. So the amount of destruction this tag team division is capable of is absolutely insane. And who wouldn't want to see everything being invested in this tag team division right now? Yes, there's possible teams that could be broken up, like the New Day. There's possible put-together tag teams that might not be a long-lasting, like Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin, like Cedric Alexander and Javion Evans. I understand that. But to go from 40 to 37, not that big of a deal. You still have, and that is 74 talent that are getting time on television. That is 74 talent that could be used in the form of 37 tag teams. Yes, I know that's math. I'm sorry. But that is worth investing in when you have over 30 tag teams on your roster. Yeah, you're going to make those tag champions a big deal. You're going to use them as the face of the division, and you're going to do it now because you have to do so. Now, I said we'll get to the War Raiders, who made their return just a few weeks ago, because Raw is having themselves a number one contenders tournament as well. And I do think the War Raiders are set to become the new tag team champions on Raw, for the same reason Motor City Machine Guns did so as well. I think the time is now to absolutely just kick this tag team division into a new gear and to hit the ground, not just running, but sprinting. Because you have the pieces in place and you have nothing but amazing talent right there. So it's going to be an absolute delight in the future to watch consistent tag team action, tag team matches. And this is just the men's side. We've seen so much development on the tag team division on the women's side. When you just look at Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill at the helm of your tag team champions. And the beauty there is, yes, the talent pool within that division isn't as large on the men's, but that's why you have tag team champions that can go to any brand, because those titles can go to SmackDown, where, you have tag teams there. You can go to Raw, where you have tag teams there. NXT, with you have tag teams there. As we're seeing a lot of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson as of late. Why? Because teams like Fatal Influence, Roxanne Perez, and Cora Jade, and then you have Julia and Stephanie Bakir. I mean, they're doing stuff in the tag team aspect, but they're doing it circling around Roxanne's NXT Women's Championship. So you have Fatal Influence, who, are scheduled for a match tonight at Halloween Havoc that we'll definitely talk about a little bit later. So they're a little bit occupied there. So what do you do with Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend? Well, you have them compete around the tag team championships and around whoever else is doing. Because on SmackDown, we saw we saw Lash Legend defeat Piper Niven just a couple weeks ago. And that was a big match. That was a huge match for her. And as much as I don't understand why I understood why they were on SmackDown in regards to the tag team champions. Why they got a tag team title shot a couple weeks ago. I'm still never going to fully wrap my brain around the random showing ups on shows like Lash Legend on SmackDown in that match. Now, that's not taken away from the match because I thought the match was really good. I thought that was one of Lash Legend's better matches. And as Chris Best has said, yes, when talking about Halloween Havoc, there will be a PLE patrol later today with Chris Best and potentially OMD and Bubba Duke, potentially myself later tonight, as PLE patrol has stopped around the Halloween Havoc, has stopped around NXT. So make sure you're checking that out on the Turnbuckle Studios platform as well as any other platforms like maybe some Chris Bass, maybe the Bubba Duke OMD, the Locker Room, all that stuff. Go check it out. That is why I send you their way at times. So when we're talking about the tag division WWE, both men and females, but primarily the men right now, like it is just going to be a huge focus. And when we're talking about 2 hours on SmackDown, 2 hours on Raw, just for the next 2 months, we're going to see some tag team matches there. We're going to see some tag team stuff there. But then in the new year, when everything just is added time, now we're seeing these tag teams that we now have taken the last few months to get to know, to get invested on. Now we have all this time to really sink our teeth into it. So I think this is going to be an absolute fantastic tag team division. And I think 2025 is going to be such an important year with WWE and tag team wrestling. Now, before I get to the next topic at hand, I want to make sure that everyone hasn't ran out of energy. Because if you did, well, then I hate to say it, but you're going to watch another video. But it's a good video. It's a video where you can go and supply yourself with some energy, and that is Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is just an absolute amazing partner of mine, an affiliate of mine, to where you can get beautiful products where all you have to do is get the powdered form. You can add some water and you're off to the races. You can get beautiful shaker cups, and then you can get additional stuff. But you know what? Instead of me just showing you or telling you, I will show you. Now make sure that at the end, if you do go to rogueenergy.com, you are using the promo code PERISH. Save yourself 10% at checkout. But check this Rogue Energy video out, and then we'll get to the next subject. So once again, that promo code is PERISH, PERISH, and you can save yourself 10% off at the checkout screen. So why wait? Do it right now. And still watch Chris Perish podcast, of course. We did talk about Halloween Havoc, and right now we do have a PLE patrol in place. But what are the matches, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you the matches, because we were talking about Fatal Influence. One of the members of Fatal Influence, whether it's Jasmine Nix, JC Jane, or Fallon Henley, will compete for the NXT Women's North American Championship as they face Kalani Jordan, the current and the inaugural NXT Women's North American Championship in a spinner's choice match, because again, the wheel comes into play every Halloween Havoc. So there's always going to be stipulations for most matches. They're not for all, but do for most. I'm going to pick JC Jane to be that person to face Kalani Jordan. And my heart wants Fallon Henley, but I do believe that we are going to get a new women's North American champion in either JC Jane or Fallon Henley. But my money is going to be on JC Jane right now, as I think Henley and Jasmine. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Reverse it. I am going to pick Fallon Henley because I think JC Jane and Jasmine Nix will go after those tag team titles at a later date. So Fallon Henley is my pick to defeat Kalani Jordan for that NXT Women's North American Championship. And then we have Andre Chase versus Ridge Holland in an ambulance match. And this is nothing but a grudge match right now. And we saw Ridge Holland absolutely turn his back on Chase U after they lost their shot of regaining those tag team championships against Nathan Frazier and Axiom. And ever since then, Chase U has been, especially Andre Chase, has been just vying for revenge against Ridge Holland. And tonight we see that. And I do think we're going to see a little bit of closure here, but I do think we're going to see potentially the pairing of Ridge Holland with Sean Spears and Brooke Jensen. That is something that I think is going to happen at some point. I think what better way than right now when you have that allegiance come to play as Andre Chase. It's put in that ambulance and Ridge Holland is your winner. It keeps the story going, and then now we can do 3-on-3. All you have to do is add a female, and then you can add Thea Hale. No. What do you guys think? Next up, we have Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade versus Julia and Stephanie Vacquer. And this is just a straight-up tag team match. And I do think this is the time where you have one of either Stephanie or Julia pin Roxanne Perez to win that match and determine that number one contender for Roxanne's women's championship. I think the time and place is right now. And I do think, in fact, I'm going to go with Stephanie Vacquer pinning Roxanne Perez and getting that 1-2-3. So the build up then is Stephanie Vacquer versus Roxanne Perez, and then we can have Cora Jade versus Julia. I really like how the story is progressing, and I wouldn't be surprised if at one point we do see a fatal four-way for that championship. But as of right now, I think we simplify it just a tad, and then we have the two matches that maybe intertwine with each other at the next big show. And then we see that turn into a fatal four-way. Next up, we have basically the rubber match for the NXT Men's North American Championship. Tony D'Angelo defends his newly crowned NXT North American Championship against the former champion Obafemi in a spin the wheels, make the deal, table, ladders, and scares match. Yes, this match can only be won by pinfall. Adriano Rizzo, Channing Stacks Lorenzo, and Luca Cristofino are banned from ringside. So what does this detail? Does Obafemi regain his championship, or does Tony D'Angelo shock the world again and legitimizes his win and prove everybody right that he's not a one-hit wonder, he's not a fluke, but he is, without a shadow of a doubt, the NXT North American champion? And I think he does. And I think Tony D'Angelo picks up the win, and then we move on. So Obafemi can then be absolutely elevated to that world championship, which I believe that he will be a very quick next champion. And then we get to that championship match, and we have a Devil's Playground match for the NXT Championship. That's Ethan Page, Mr. All Ego, challenges the champion Trick Williams. And I think Trick Williams does get the 1, 2, 3 here. I do think he defeats Ethan Page, and I do think we go on to something else. And I do think that something else is potentially Obafemi, Trick Williams. Well, I do think maybe Ethan Page either goes down to the North American Championship, but there's a part of me that thinks he might actually be closer to main roster bound than people might think. Imagine, we're talking about tag teams, just imagine a potential tag team between Ethan Page and The Miz. Imagine a partnership with Ethan Page and Pretty Deadly. I just think that Ethan Page is too seasoned right now to be in NXT. Not that there's anything wrong with NXT, but I just think he is ready for that Raw and SmackDown. And it's just time for somebody new. So that's my prediction for Halloween Havoc. What do you guys have? Who are your picks? Let me know. I will throw the question of the week on Spotify to: is Ethan Page ready for the main roster? Simple as that. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. What brand do you want to see Ethan Page on? Raw, SmackDown, NXT? That, I think, is a better one. That will be the question of the week over on Spotify, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out the Chris Perish podcast live on Spotify, or not live on Spotify, just on Spotify, make sure you're checking that out. So next time you're on Spotify and you get a chance, search the Chris Perish podcast and make sure you're hitting that follow. Make sure you're hitting that like. And if you want, leave a 5-star rating. Why? Because it helps me, if I'm being completely honest. But also share it. Let people know. Spread the word that the Chris Perish podcast is on Spotify. So next time you're rocking out to your tunes, make sure you're also checking out the Chris Perish podcast on Spotify. Last night we saw TNA's Bound for Glory, and it was a fantastic show. From the opening match to the main event, it was a great show. And we saw just about every title, I believe, on the line, if not all titles on the line. And we saw even a battle royal. We saw Kazarian win the Call Your Shot Battle Royal, where he himself earned a title shot whenever he wanted. Very similar to the Money in the Bank stipulation, if you're not aware of what that entails. Which is good, because later in the night, he is serving as a special referee to Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth in that TNA World title match. And we'll get to there shortly. But first, we have Mike Bailey, Speedball Mike Bailey, defending El Hero de la Viquino to retain his X Division Championship in what was it was a good match. I mean, when you have guys like Bailey, like Del Vikingo, all they're going to do is just make you say, wow, for what they're able to do, the work that they put in, that's just the pace of the match. I mean, these guys will always go that extra mile just to get you to jump out of your seats, and they did just that. But we saw Mike Bailey pick up the win, retain that championship, and let us know in the comments. Let me know in the comments, who do you want to see Mike Bailey defend that X Division Championship next against? Then we had Spitfire, the team of Danny Luna and Jody Threat, a friend of mine, Jody Threat, defeating Wendy Chu and Rosemary for those Knockout Tag Team Championships. And what was really surprising was the aftermatch, where we saw Rosemary just turn on Wendy Chu. Just absolutely. It just almost seemed like they that relationship has ended. Does give her a kiss on the forehead. So it also makes you just wonder, all right, what's next? Are we going to see Rosemary versus Wendy Chu? This is going to be a weird match, but I am all for it because this is going to be a fantastic match. Next up, we had Josh Alexander defeating Steve Maclin. And Steve Maclin, what a performance. He was in handcuffs and just taking it to Josh Alexander at one point in this match. And there's something about Josh Alexander that always just steps up, rises up in matches that are hard hitting. But Steve Maclin really put out a performance that I was very impressed by last night. And Steve Maclin, I think your stock rose huge last night. A great match. I want to see a rematch 100%. Give me more Maclin and Josh Alexander, please. That was a match that really, really opened my eyes because I did not have, even though I like both competitors, I didn't have the world's highest expectations in this match simply because I just didn't know what to expect. But I was pleasantly surprised and I want to see more. So good job to both Josh Alexander and Steve Maclin, but Josh Alexander wins pretty much like I expect because I do believe that he will be the guy that takes the title off Nick Nemeth at one point. So one step closer on the Josh Alexander side of things. We saw a Monsters Ball match for that Digital Media Championship between Matt Cardona, who definitely brought back his Ghostbuster entrance. And who doesn't like Ghostbusters, all right? Yeah. When there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you going to call? Matt Cardona. Although he fell short in his attempt to capture that Digital Media Championship because from just an amazing moonsault off the top, PCO was able to put the nail in the coffin of the man who's always ready. It's PCO. Continues his rise as Digital Media Champion. We have a good day, Perish. PPW New Tag Team Champions last night. The Short Kings, Mars the Specialist, and the Thickness, Reed Matthews. Well, congratulations to Mars the Specialist and the Thickness, Reed Matthews. Mars the Specialist also, if I'm not mistaken, the current reigning Love Pro Wrestling Grand Champion. So congratulations to him. Just adding more championships to his collection. Now, Vassar, you're going to have to maybe talk to the PPW thing because I'm sure one son of Irish and yours truly could just go and take those championships. So put in the good word, brother. You guys do shows on Saturdays, and that fits my schedule. But I am glad that that was a good show. I'm happy for you guys. And yeah, if you guys are in the Saskatchewan area, make sure you're checking out Prairie Pro Wrestling. As Basser there, if he's not working on the show and he's just being the viewer, you make sure that you're around that because that is a ball of energy that is more than just contagious. It is infectious. And it was an absolute pleasure when I went down there. So go check that out and go say hi because I'm sure Basser is going to be doing a little bit of Stone Cold Steve Austin's per match. Not just once in a while. I'm sure he's doing some of those per matches. Am I right, man? Am I right? Right back at you, brother. Talking a little bit Bound for Glory action, though. As we just talked about PCO defeating Matt Cardona for that Digital Media Championship. And when we saw Santana and Moose in a match, and this match maybe didn't have a lot of expectations in the match either because, you know, there's no championship. There's no really stipulations. It's just a straight up one match. But any traditionals out there know that that's actually just great. In fact, that match might set itself apart because it's simple. But we did see Santana pick up the 1-2-3 against Moose, and that was very, very interesting. I did not have Santana in this match, but I did want Santana to win, so I was very shocked, but at the same time, I was shocked with a smile on my face when I saw Santana as the winner. And then we get to what I thought was the match of the night. And that was the knockout championship match between Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace. And another match just straight through, no funny business, no interference, nothing like that. Just two women working their ass off and just putting on a great match. And that is exactly what we saw with Masha Slamovich finally doing what so many others could not do, and that is taking down the juggernaut herself in Jordan Grace. Masha Slamovich is now your new TNA's Knockouts champion. What an amazing job done by Jordan Grace as that champion, and I cannot wait to see what that new road with Masha Slamovich entails as a champion. I think it's a lot of people's expectation that Jordan Grace will eventually become a WWE performer. And one step towards that is just her dropping that Knockouts championship. So now with that out of the way, we're only a few months away from the Royal Rumble, where she made her WWE debut last year, or like this year, last Rumble. So I do believe we're going to see Jordan Grace once again at the Royal Rumble. However, I think this year we might see Jordan Grace at WrestleMania. Then we had the TNA Championship match. We had, if you say his name, he appears. That is right. Joe Hendry himself challenges Nick Nemeth for that TNA World Heavyweight Championship, with Frankie Kazarian acting as your special referee. And there was a point in this match where Frankie Kazarian called his shot. Just like the Battle Royal that he won earlier to get that title opportunity, he cashed in. But before he could, we saw John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL himself, come out from the crowd, take out Kazarian, take out Joe Hendry, only for Nick Nemeth to slide back into the ring. I don't think he was aware of what happened, but he somehow slimed out of there, still your TNA World Champion. And that is a very intriguing storyline that I definitely want to see more of. But yeah, JBL occurring on TNA Broadcasting once again, helping Nick Nemeth retain that championship. So now it looks like we have Nick Nemeth versus Josh Alexander. That looks to be that next match there. But do we see Joe Hendry versus JBL? Do we see Kazarian versus JBL? Do we see Frankie Kazarian versus Joe Hendry? Because I think the fans would absolutely just explode if by chance we get Joe Hendry versus Kazarian, and if Joe Hendry wins, he takes the call your shot opportunity and then uses that to get himself a championship match and wins the TNA World Championship. Because I do believe, did he catch what I was doing? I have a feeling Josh Alexander is going to defeat Nick Nemeth at the next TNA pay-per-view and become your champion. But I do think at that is the point where I would then strike with Joe Hendry ruining that party for Josh Alexander. We're not done, though, because that was not the main event. As much as you thought, what, the World Championship is not the main event? No, we got Full Metal Mayhem as the Hardys went against the Systems, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and they were up against Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Those titles hung up above, and these three teams absolutely went to battle. But when we're talking about titles being hung above, we're talking ladders, we're talking Hardys. Who's putting their money on anyone but the Hardy Boys at this point? Because if you did, you would have lost. Because Matt and Jeff Hardy are now your new TNA World Tag Team Champions. That is right. The Hardys are TNA Tag Team Champions. And that was the moment that concluded Bound for Glory. So if you had an opportunity to go check out Bound for Glory, let me know what you thought. But from top to bottom, I thought this was a great show. And I do think that this is a company that you should not be sleeping on. You should be checking out Total Nonstop Action whenever you can. And yeah, you're going to see just great matches. And you just never know. You're going to just never know who else you can see. Because you'll see a few NXT superstars. I know Bradley Reese was teaming up with Zaya Brookside against Ash and Heather by Elegance in the pre-show, or in the dark match, or whatever you want to call it in the TNA world. But yeah, that was also another match. And then we saw Wendy Chu as well. And it's the same thing for NXT. You just never know who from TNA is going to show up. I mean, just think about this. If Jordynne Grace no longer has a championship, and now we're talking Julia, Stephanie Ventura, Roxanne Perez, Corey Jade around that title picture, the potential of adding Jordynne Grace to that, now that is a main event picture for that women's championship. Am I right? Now, that's not the only match that or the show that, I'm going to review or predict, because next week we have Crown Jewel. I told you there's a lot of talk about here, and I am not lying, because Crown Jewel, we're going to see 2 new champions in the form of Crown Jewel champions, because both women's champions in WWE, Nia Jax and Liv Morgan, as well as the WWE champion and the undisputed champion in Gunther and Cody Rhodes, are set to battle each other in champion versus champion matches, and the winner becomes a Crown Jewel champion. Now, a lot of people, they don't like this Crown Jewel championship. They're unaware of really what it is, but it just seems to me like every year at Crown Jewel, we're going to see champions versus champion, and then the winner gets that title, I guess. So what the matches that we do have, as of right now, we do have Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. As on SmackDown, Randy Orton got the match, got Triple H to make the match between him and KO at Crown Jewel. And this is going to be an absolute hard-hitting matchup that I don't know who's going to win. Right now, Randy Orton is sitting at 6 consecutive losses on PLEs. I don't know if we're going to see number 7. But for argument's sake and storyline's sake, I'm going to say he will drop a 7th straight PLE. Because I think right now that it just makes sense. Randy Orton's just in a position where he's just, I don't think in a position to where him winning makes more sense than the other guy winning. And I think it's just as simple as that. I don't think it has anything to do with Randy Orton. Not to mention, does a loss really affect Randy Orton? No. He's one RKO away from being believable to be a world heavyweight champion whenever he wants. So, if you ask me, I think this just sets up Kevin Owens defeating Randy Orton. And then maybe, just maybe, he gets that shot against Cody Rhodes once again. We also saw a United States triple threat match be put on this card as Carmelo Hayes and Andrade tried to have their 7th match, their best of 7, with LA Knight as a special referee. LA Knight didn't care too much about the match and just did things his way. And because he did things his way, Nick Aldis said, look, I put you in that. as a referee to kind of keep order, make sure we have a winner. And we didn't get a winner. So the way I look at it, LA Knight, you now have two competitors at Crown Jewel, as are Andrade, Carmelo, and LA Knight, set to face off in a triple threat match at Crown Jewel. Now, here is where things get a little bit interesting. I don't know if LA Knight is going to walk out champion. I think if you want to keep this kind of story going, Carmelo Hayes is your pick to become U.S. champion. Now, do I want to see LA Knight lose a championship? Absolutely not. However, do I want to see a pissed off LA Knight? Yeah. So it's kind of there. Now, in a triple threat match, LA Knight does not have to be pinned to lose the title. And when was the last time you really saw that as a situation? And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. We're going to see Carmelo Hayes pin Andrade, not LA Knight. So now he can say up to Andrade, well, I've beaten you 4 times, so I win there. And then now I'm the champion. So LA Knight, I beat you there. And then he can refrain to himself as the A champion once again. I wouldn't hate that. So yeah, no, I have Carmelo Hayes becoming the United States champion at Crown Jewel. And then we also have Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed, and I think this match is just going to be absolutely insane. I think we're going to see Seth Rollins have a challenge that I don't know if he's ready for, because Bronson Reed's ready for it. Seth Rollins says he's ready for it, but does he know what he's in for? That is something that's going to be absolutely fun to watch. But I do have Bronson Reed getting the win here. I do think he is going to get the 1, 2, 3. I think he should have the 1, 2, 3. It's a statement win, and then we can come back with another match with those two down the road. We have Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan, champion versus champion. And this is where I think things get very interesting, because what we have is not just a champion versus champion match, but we have a champion versus champion match with a Money in the Bank winner attached to one of the champions and very much in play. Now, you can ask, well, what happens if Tiffany Stratton cashes in during this match? What happens there? Well, it's twofold. One, this match isn't for Nia Jax or Liv Morgan's individual championship. So she's cashing into a match where either championship is on the line. So she cashes in mid-match. She's almost nullifying that Crown Jewel championship, because the Crown Jewel championship is just Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan. So if Tiffany Stratton cashes in, she'd have to cash in on a title, on someone. So therefore, that match now becomes for that championship, no longer for that Crown Jewel championship. So that's why I don't think we're going to see Tiffany Stratton cash in during the match. I do think we're going to see Nia Jax win this match and become that Crown Jewel champion. Now, I will say this is a very intriguing card, but I'll get to that later. Or not an intriguing card, but something with an intriguing aspect. But I have Nia Jax winning this match And I think we have a tease of all teases on a cash-in. I don't think we actually have a full-blown cash-in. And then we get to the other champion versus champion match, and that is Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. And this is where I do think the Kevin Owens factor comes back into play. I think Kevin Owens does interfere and cost Cody that championship. And that's going to be something to watch for. So, yeah. I think Gunther wins. I think Nia Jax wins. I think Bronson wins. I think Hayes wins. And I have Owens winning. I have nothing but heels winning, and I realize that, so I'm probably wrong somewhere. But the intriguing thing is here, this is in Saudi Arabia. And the last time they were in Saudi Arabia was the King and Queen of the Ring, where both Gunther and Nia Jax won the crowns respectively. And now they have an opportunity to win the Crown Jewel Championship because they both won their championships at SummerSlam. That's what they were able to get when they won the King and Queen of the Ring. They got a guaranteed title match at SummerSlam, and they both were successful. And now they're in this opportunity to now, not only in a place where they were crowned King and Queen, they could be now crowned as a Crown Jewel champion in back-to-back visits to Saudi Arabia. So I think that's very kind of a nice little thing. And I do think we're going to see both. I think Rhea Ripley is going to cost Liv Morgan in some way. And maybe we see a potential cash-in, but Rhea Ripley comes in and takes a briefcase and hits it over the head of Liv Morgan. And then her and Raquel fight. And then Nia gets the match, and then the briefcase is in Tiffany's hand. So Nia just thinks Tiffany helped her. I don't know. But I think that is what I have on the dock tonight. I've gone through just about everything. I do have Bloodline stuff, but and I'll say it, SmackDown this upcoming week was pre-taped. I'm not going to say what happened. We'll talk about that next week because I know some people here may not want spoilers on that. So I'm not going to be that guy. But what I will say, I will talk more in depth about the Bloodline next week on episode 48. So let me know in the comments what you think of the Bloodline now. What did you think about this episode? But until then, please go check out Spotify. Please go check out all the other platforms. Make sure you're giving it a like, a follow, subscribe, all that good stuff to all my socials, where you can definitely find it on my Linktree. Linktree/chrisperish. Yes, link.rtr.ee/chrisperish. You'll see that just on the screen below. You'll see all the platforms that I am on in my outro video. So, yeah, make sure you're checking that out. It is time for football today, people. Now, the Saints aren't on right now as they normally are, so I'm happy. I got a little bit of time to prep. But till next week, thank you so much for joining the Chris Perish podcast. I appreciate you. I cannot do this without you. So hope to see you again next week. Have a great Sunday. And remember, go Saints.